How to convert any 2D image into a 3D textured mesh without modeling it in Blender. Alright, so here we are in Blender 5 and we got this reference image, the Pepsi logo, that we're going to be using it to convert it into 3D model. So first step is going to be to simply drag our logo into Blender like this. So after that, we have to flatten it with the floor so that we can make it easy to work with. So with it selected, so you can just left click on it and we can press N so that we can access this item panel. And here for the location, we can simply left click and drag down and we can write 0. So this way we're going to be resetting the X, Y, and Z all at once. We can just press enter. So now it's centered. We can do the same thing for the rotation. Left click and drag down and we can press 0 and press enter. So now our Pepsi logo is completely flat on the ground. So the next step is going to be to convert this image into a plane. So you can do right click and we can convert to mesh plane and we can just click on OK. So now it's a mesh. So the next step is going to be to add the displace modifier to our plane right here. So we can just left click to select it and we can jump to the modifiers right here, to this wrench icon that we got here. And we can add a new modifier. It's going to be the displace modifier. I'm going to just search for it right here. So displace modifier. It's inside the deform category. So nothing is happening. We got the plane lifted a little bit up. So we need to assign the texture, this texture that we got here. So if you scroll a little bit down, you're going to find this texture properties. You can just click on it and let's click on add new texture. And here I'd like to load my image. We can just click on open, double click on the Pepsi logo right here. There we go. So now it's loaded and you can see the weird shape that we got here. So the reason why it looks like this is because the plane has only 4 vertices. You can see that if we switch to the edit mode by pressing tab. So only 4 vertices. So what we need to do, we need to subdivide our plane so that we can give this displace modifier more vertices to work with. So what we can do here, so we are on the edit mode. You can see that from here, the edit mode. So the shortcut is by pressing tab. So we can press Ctrl E so that we can access this panel and we can just click on subdivide. And on the bottom here, we have this pop-up. You can just click on it. And I would like to increase the number of cuts all the way to 10. You can just simply drag it like this. So now if you go back to the object mode, you can see this weird shape that we got here. It doesn't look like our logo. And the reason why it looks like this is because of the coordinates in this displace modifier. So these coordinates are set to local, so it should be set to UV. So now it's only one image of our logo, not duplicates. So also I'd like to flip it the other side. So here for the strength, we can just type -1. Let me just add minus so that we can push it out, upward, not inward. But as you can see, 10 subdivisions is not enough. So what we need to do, we have to add more. So we can press tab again to switch to the edit mode, Ctrl E, subdivide, and we can increase the number of cuts, let's say again to 10. Go back to the object mode. There we go. So now it's starting to look better, but it's still pixelated. So let's add, I'm gonna just keep subdividing, let's say 2 times like this, and let's take a look at it. Looks better. I'd like to reduce the strength because here we have some noisy surface. So I'm gonna just give it 0.01 like this. There we go. So it's getting better. I'd like to add one last subdivision. So on the edit mode, Ctrl E and subdivide. Alright, so let me go back here to the object mode. So now it looks pretty much clear. We're gonna fix it even better. We're gonna make this logo looks even better. So next step is gonna be to start the cleanup process of our logo. And first, I would like to apply this displace modifier. So we can just select our plane here. And for the displace modifier, you can just click right here and apply it. So now our logo is stamped into the plane. So if we switch to that mode, the one's going to be changed. So you can see the real deformation that we got here. So the next step is going to be to get rid of all these empty spaces that we don't need. So we can press 1 so that we can be facing our logo from the front. And on the edit mode, we can switch by pressing tab. I would like to press Z, switch to the wireframe. So I'd like to get rid of this part here that we got on the bottom. You can just select the bottom like this and we can press X and delete it. So now we are left with only the logo. You can see that right here. So let me just press Z, switch back to the solid. Also here, I'd like to go back to the object mode so that we can take a look at it. It looks nice, but we have to get rid of all these residues that we got here. So what we can do on the edit mode, we can press A to select everything, and we can try S to scale, and I'd like to scale it on the Z-axis like this, and we can press 0 so that we can make it completely flat, and we can press enter. So now our plane is completely flat, our logo. Alright, so now for the next step, we have to get rid of all the vertices that we got in the middle. For example, these, we don't need them. They are serving no purpose. You can just fill this one with the very low vertices. So to get rid of all these vertices, we need to extract only the edge of our logo. So to do that, we can press A to select everything, and we can press E and extrude down like this. So you can just left click here so that you can deselect everything. And after that, I'd like to select only the sharp edges. So you can jump to select, and here we have the option to select only sharp edges. And there we go. So we got the top sharp edges selected as well as the bottom. But in our case, we only need one. So you can press again 1 so that you can be facing front. Press Z, switch to the wireframe, and we can deselect the bottom. So let me just press B to box select. We can press shift and left click, and we can simply drag like this. So this way we're going to be deselecting the bottom. We can only have the top, and for the top we can duplicate it. Let me just switch here to the move tool. We can press shift D to duplicate it. Like this, right click to cancel the movement, and we can drag it to the right side. Also, I'd like to separate this new duplicate from the rest of our logo. So you can press P and separate selection like this. Alright, so let's go back to the object mode. We can select our new duplicate, and we can clean it a little bit so we have some residues here. So on the edit mode, I'd like to select only the essential parts. So you can press L to grab them like this. Let's grab them all. Like this, and after that we can do the reverse selection. We can press Ctrl I to reverse selection. So this way we're going to be selecting all the other residue. We can press X and delete those vertices. Alright, so the next step is going to be to smooth out our logo. So if you zoom in, you're going to see this wobbling that we got here, this zigzag shape. So we need to get rid of it. So the way to get rid of it is by applying the smooth modifier. Let me just press 7 so that we can be on the top orthographic. In here, I'd like to add a new modifier. It's going to be the smooth modifier. Let me just zoom in, for example, here. And let's keep an eye on this line. So I'm going to increase the factor, let's say 1.3. And for the repeat, we can repeat this too much. So we can repeat this. So you can repeat the smooth modifier, for example, let's say 20 times. So now we got a smooth line. Alright, so let's go ahead and apply. Let me just double check the other parts of our logo. It looks perfect. So you can see that everything looks perfect from distance. So now I'd like to apply this smooth modifier. You can just click on it and apply it. So the next step is going to be to reduce the poly count. So if you switch the edit mode, you're going to see that it's dense in geometry. We have a lot of vertices. So there is no need to have this much vertices. So what you can do, you can press A to select everything. Let me, for example, keep an eye here. And we can go to edge and click on unsubdivide. And we can, for example, use 3 iterations. But also we have to keep an eye on the overall shape of our logo, because if you went too much with these unsubdivision, you can see that we start losing the main shape. So I suggest something around 3 iterations is fine. And after that, we can also try to smooth out some parts. For example, here, let me just get rid of this part, press X, delete or dissolve. Let me just press X, delete these vertices. For this part here, let me just select this entire part and we can smooth it out. We can do right click and let me just search for smooth vertices. This one right here, you can just click on it and let me just keep smoothing these vertices. I'm gonna increase the repetition to 9. There we go. So now this part is smooth. You can also, for example, get rid of this part, X, dissolve it and select this part and press F to reconnect it. You can select this part, right click, smooth vertices again, like this. And also, for example, here, these corners, so we got some problems here. So what we can do, we can use the merge vertices option. So we can press A to select everything, press M, merge by distance, and we can keep increasing this merge distance until we fix these problems. So this is the normal distance that we got. So here I'm gonna just get rid of the 0 right here. There we go. So 32 vertices are removed. You can get rid of another 0. There we go. So now it's fixed. We don't have that mess at these corners. 75 vertices are removed. Let me just go back and let's double check. Also here we can do the smooth. Let me just select this entire part, right click, smooth vertices. There we go. And we can keep checking the overall shape of our logo. So now it's perfect. So now what we can do, we can just start filling these gaps. Let me just check. So we can press A to select everything, and we can press F to fill all the gaps. But the problem that we got here, for example, this P, so the P, we should have a gap over here. So basically when filling, we should not include the P. We have to use a different approach with the P. So let me just revert back, Control Z. And what we can do, we can deselect the P. We can press Shift and let's press L to deselect the P like this. And we can just press F to fill the rest. And for the P, I'd like to select these two parts and we can press Alt F to fill it like this. So this way we're gonna be keeping the whole empty like this. Same thing for the other P. Let me just select them both. Alt F to fill. There we go. So now we're good. So the next step is going to be to add the solidify modifier to our logo. So let's select it first and we can add here inside the modifiers. Let's add the solidify modifier and we can increase the thickness up to something like 0.25. But as you can see, some parts are pushed down, others are pushed up. So we have to flip the normals. For example, we can select the ones that are flipped upward, these, and we can try Shift N to flip the normals. Shift N like this. And here we can just click on inside. So there you go. So now everything, so the solidify works in only one direction, which is down. Alright, so let's go back to the object mode and let's double check. We're good. We can do right click and shade auto smooth. So now it looks perfect. We can also add the bevel modifier to not keep these edges sharp. So let's select our logo and we can add the bevel modifier. So there we go. So we got some bevel in here. We can also try to increase inside the bevel modifier. We can increase the segments up to something like 5. It's going to be fine, 5. All right, and there we go. So we converted our 2D image into 3D model without modeling it in Blender. Also, let me just get rid of this one right here. All right, so the next step is going to be to texture our logo. So we need to texture it exactly like the reference image, like this. So to do that, I'd like to select my logo and we have to jump to the material properties. And as you can see, we already have a material applied to it. So it's applied by default. We can just call it here instead of empty, we can just call it Pepsi logo. And we need to work on it. So in the 3D viewport, I would like to split my window. We can just left click from here, click on left click and drag to the right side like this to the middle. And on the left window, we can just switch it to the UV editor like this. After that, let me just press 7 to go to the top. We can press tab to switch the edit mode, press A to select everything. And let me just check the UV. So we don't have any UVs. You can see that dot here. So what you can do, we can press U and project from view. And all we have to do is to just scale up this UV, but also in order to see it applied to our logo, we can just press Z and switch to the material preview. All right, so we can see it right here. Also, I'd like to hide the vertices. So we can just click, let me just click on this overlay or the gizmo. Actually, this one over here, the show overlays, we can just deactivate it so that we can see the texture, how it works. So from here, let's select all the UVs and we can scale them up until it matches the texture like this. Let me just press Control Space and we can scale it a little bit up, scale even up until we got a match like this. Control Space, let's go back and there we go. So you can see it from here. So it's completely applied to our material. We can add some tweakings to our material right here. So for example, the metallic, we can increase it up. I'd like to increase it all the way to 1 so that it's gonna look metallic. And for the roughness, we can decrease it down to 0.35 to make it a little bit glossy, like this. And basically we got it, so we converted our 2D image into 3D model, and it comes textured in Blender.